Hey everyone, so I just finished reading this absolutely brilliant book and I couldn't wait to tell you about it. It's called Show Your Work by Austin Kleon, and honestly, it's a total game changer, especially if you're someone who creates things whether that's art, cold, delicious food, or even just really interesting ideas, and you've always felt a bit awkward about putting yourself out there, the whole self-promotion thing. This book tackles it head-on but in a way that feels really refreshing and, dare I say, authentic. You might be asking, why this book? Well, like a lot of creators, I've always struggled with the idea of self-promotion. It just feels a bit yucky, right? Like you're constantly blowing your own horn. Comedian Steve Martin famously advises, be so good they can't ignore you. And I totally agree with that. You do need to focus on getting good, but Kleon adds this crucial twist: you don't just need to be good, you need to be finnable. That's where Show Your Work comes in. It's not about aggressive self-promotion, it's about making your work discoverable by generously sharing your process, which is a completely different mindset. It's less about me, and more about here's what I'm doing. Maybe it'll help you too. Now, you've probably heard of the lone genius myth, right? This idea that creativity strikes like a lightning bolt, and some super talented individual just toils away in secret until they unveil a masterpiece. It's a really destructive myth according to Kleon because it makes the rest of us feel like we can't possibly measure up. But the book introduces this much healthier concept called Scenius, a term coined by musician Brian Eno. Scenius is about an ecology of talented group of creative people who support each other, share ideas, and collectively contribute to great work. Think about it, many of those lone geniuses were actually part of a vibrant scene. What's amazing is that the internet makes it easier than ever to join a Scenius because it connects people who care about similar things, regardless of where they are physically. There's no bouncer, no gatekeeper, anyone can contribute. And speaking of contributing, Kleon really champions the amateur. Now, don't let that word scare you. Amateur comes from the French word for lover. It's about someone who pursues their work out of love, not necessarily for fame or money. And here's the kicker: amateurs often have an advantage over professionals because they have less to lose. They're willing to experiment, take chances, and they're not afraid to make mistakes or look ridiculous in public. They learn in the open, which means others can learn from their journey too. It's like Zen monk Shunryu Suzuki said, in The Beginner's Mind, there are many possibilities. The world is changing so fast that we're all, in some ways, amateurs, constantly learning, and embracing that spirit is key to flourishing. So how do you actually show your work? The core principle is to think process, not product. Traditionally, artists were taught to keep their creative process secret, only revealing the finished masterpiece. But today, with the internet, you can share whatever you want, whenever you want, at almost no cost. Kleon argues that by sharing your day-to-day process, the messy, in-between stuff, you can form a unique bond with your audience. He gives the fantastic example of astronaut Chris Hadfield, who, during his mission on the International Space Station, tweeted, answered questions, posted pictures of Earth, recorded music, and even filmed himself doing mundane things like clipping his nails in space. People ate it up because they wanted to see how the sausage gets made. It's about turning the invisible into something visible. This leads us to another crucial point: share something small every day. Forget about overnight success, that's a myth. Building a substantial body of work takes time. Focusing on daily progress, Kleon suggests that once a day, after you've done your actual work, you go back to your documentation, your notes, photos, videos, and find one small piece of your process to share. This daily dispatch isn't about perfection. In fact, the book reminds us of Theodore Sturgeon's idea that 90% of everything is crap, and that's okay. The point is to get it out there to see how people react. And remember, don't just share your lunch or your latte, share your work. A good way to think about it is what DribbleCon asks, what are you working on? One of my favorite ideas from the book is to open up your cabinet of curiosities. We all have things we collect, things that inspire us, things we love. These influences form our tastes and shape our work. Kleon asks, what do you read? What music do you listen to? Who do you steal ideas from? Do you have any heroes? He says your influences are worth sharing because they clue people into who you are and what you do, sometimes even more than your own work. It's about being brave enough to love what you love. even if others think it's garbage. And if you share others' work, you have a duty to give proper credit. This means providing context, who made it, how, when, why you're sharing it, and most importantly, a hyperlink back to the original creator without proper attribution. You're robbing your audience of the chance to dig deeper. He illustrates this with a fantastic story about two identical paintings in a museum. The only difference is one is a 17th century masterpiece and the other is a forgery. Suddenly, the story behind the art changes its perceived value. Your work doesn't speak for itself. The stories you tell about it have a huge effect on how people value it. This brings us to tell good stories. Every email, tweet, photo, or video you share is part of a narrative you're building. Good storytelling isn't always easy, but it's a skill you can learn. Clean simplifies story structure, noting that most can be traced back to a character wanting something, going after it despite opposition, and arriving at a win, lose, or draw. He then applies this to pitching past where you've been, present where you are, and future where the person you're pitching can help you get there. And when talking about your work, whether it's at a party or in a bio, stick to no fiction. Be clear, concise, and empathetic to your audience. Don't be cute, don't brag. Just state the facts. Another powerful idea is to teach what you know. The book uses the example of Aaron Franklin, the pitmaster behind Franklin Barbecue, one of the most famous barbecue joints in the world, despite the intense competition and his legendary status. Aaron and his wife share all their techniques in a crowdfunded YouTube series. You might think, won't that create competition? But the Franklins explained that while the technique is simple, mastery takes years of intuition and practice, so just knowing the recipe doesn't mean you'll be able to replicate it immediately. Teaching doesn't subtract value, it adds to it by generating more interest in your work and making people feel closer to what you do. Plus, when you share your knowledge, you get an education in return through feedback and new connections. Now, on the flip side, we need to talk about don't turn into human spam. You know these people, right? They only want to talk about themselves, thrust flyers at you, and never engage with others' work. If you want fans, you have to be a fan first. If you want to be accepted by a community, you have to be a good citizen. Be an open no give before you get. Notice others. Listen. It's about quality connections, not just quantity of followers. To be interesting, you have to be interested. And remember, connections don't mean anything if you're not doing good work. They're a natural outgrowth of being good at what you do. So, make stuff you love and talk about stuff you love, then the right people will find you. And please, for the love of all that is good, never ever ask people to follow you back. Of course, putting yourself out there means you will face criticism. That's why Clean dedicates a section to learn to take a punch. He shares advice like relaxing and breathing, strengthening your neck by putting out more work, rolling with the punches, protecting your most vulnerable work, and crucially, remembering that your work is something you do, not who you are. You want feedback from people who care about you and your work, but don't feed the trolls, those people who just want to provoke. You can block them, delete nasty comments, or even turn off comments completely. Your mental well-being is more important than engaging with negativity. Then there's the big one, sell out. This word often has a really negative connotation, but Clean argues we need to get over the starving artist romanticism. People need to eat. Money isn't inherently corrupting to creativity. He points out that even Michelangelo made money for the Sistine Chapel. And Mario Puzo wrote The Godfather because he owed money. The sellout label is often from bitter small parts of ourselves. If people enjoy your free work, you might eventually ask them to become patrons, either through donations, crowdfunding, or by buying your products. A key takeaway for creators is to always be collecting email addresses. Email is old, boring, but incredibly reliable. It lands directly in someone's inbox. Unlike social media feeds that can be easily missed, people who sign up for your list are your biggest supporters. So treat them with respect, and don't be afraid to be ambitious. If an opportunity allows you to do more of the work you want to do, say yes. Success also comes with an obligation to help others who helped you along the way. Finally, we come to stick around. This is perhaps one of the most comforting and challenging messages. Careers have ups and downs, and you never know where you are in the story. The people who get what they're after are often simply the ones who stick around long enough and don't quit prematurely. Clean introduces the idea of chain-smoking projects instead of taking a long break after one project and worrying about what's next. Use the end of one project to immediately light up the next. It's about maintaining momentum and never stopping. This isn't to say you should never rest. He also talks about the importance of sabbaticals, like designer Stefan Zadmeister's practice of taking a year off every 7 years. Even if you can't do a full year, practical sabbaticals like your commute, exercise, or time in nature can help you recharge and separate your work from your life. And as you progress, be brave enough to begin again when you feel you've mastered something. Push yourself to become a student again, to learn something new in the open. So what's the big takeaway from Show Your Work? It's that creativity isn't a mystical talent for a chosen few, it's a way of operating. It's about letting go of the need for perfection. Embracing your amateur spirit and understanding that by generously sharing your process, your influences, your stories, and your knowledge, you become finnable, you connect with others, and you build a sustainable creative life. This book truly helps you see your work and yourself in a new light. It makes you realize that every little scrap of your process, every daily thought, every connection you make can become a valuable piece of your journey and an invitation for others to join you. It's a powerful reminder that if you want people to know about what you do, you simply have to share. It really makes you rethink how you approach not just your creative endeavors, but how you live and interact in the digital age. I highly recommend picking it up. It might just change the way you see your whole creative path.